Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? We are bringing you guys the first segment of Top Cards of the Week. I go based on performance, as well as look at their popularity, or what decks they are included in. Some of these cards are kind of blended together, so I've separated them into different segments itself. I also have a very deep sleeper honorable mention card that I think is actually performing incredibly well, and I'll tell you why. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first card we are going to be talking about today. These cards are not going to be in numerical order based on their win rates, but I am going to show all the win rates on screen, as well as the 4 decks I'm talking about as well, and kind of trying to explain them for you, which is why we are starting off with the Hood. The Hood is going to have a 53.3% win rate with a 19.2% popularity and a plus 0.13 cubes, which honestly, I wasn't thinking the Hood's win rate is going to be this high, but if you look at the list that he is running right now, of course you have your Annihilus Werewolf package. You do have your Firehair Phoenix Force Misery package, which honestly might even be just as good next week with Dormammu, if not maybe even a little bit better. You do have the Nightmare Pixie package. We're using this more as just like a Pixie proc, not really a card you're wanting to swap with Nightmare. And then, of course, you do have the Mill, Cannonball, Death shenanigans going on over here, which does have the lowest cube rate of these, but still has a decent win rate. But I'm looking mostly at the Werewolf, and I'm looking at the Phoenix Force list, which, of course, I believe Jet did the Phoenix Force list, which has been cooking so far. And then, of course, you have the Werewolf list. This is going to be made by Dr. Lucci, and then, of course, run by Lambie in the tournament as well. Both these decks are performing really well with 56 and 57% win rates and over 0.3 cubes. The next card we have here is going to be Surge with an outstanding 44.9% popularity, a 53.9% win rate, and a plus 0.19 cubes, which honestly, with the amount of games this is played in, to have that high of a cube rate and a pretty good win rate is kind of wild. Of course, the list we're going to have on screen here is going to be that evil Kid Omega list. We're also going to have Chamos, Galacta, Shang-Chi, Gwenpool, Zabu package, Mr. Sinister list. You're also going to have that Phoenix Force list by Jet as well. And you're going to have Nightmare, which is not surprising. It is actually the Surtur version of Nightmare, which is very interesting. It is still doing well with a 54% win rate. And then, of course, Chamo's list has a 55% win rate. I think Chamo is still at least top 5 at the moment. He was top 3 when we played each other the other day. So both these are doing incredibly well. Of course, the Kid Omega list was doing well in the pocket meta that was in, as its cube rate has dropped and its win rate has also dropped dramatically as more people are getting Kid Omega. But Surge is the most popular card in the game right now, and to be able to do what it is doing, I wouldn't be surprised if something happens to it. But let's move on to the next card. The next card we have here is Merlin. Merlin is the Season Pass card and is in 40% of decks, 40.6% to be exact, with a 52.7% win rate and an average 0.12 cubes. This deck is going to be consisting of the Nightmare package you saw earlier, but 2 different iterations of Nightmare, which we're looking at this at a week-by-week basis. So, of course, Merlin's going to be in those 2 Nightmare packages, as Nightmare is the Spotlight card or the Snap Pack card of the week. There is the Pixie package. There is the Surtur package, but then also Merlin is used in this Wiccan list, which you're not seeing maybe as much Wiccan as you have recently, but this Wiccan package does have a 54% win rate with an average 0.27 cubes, using the Mercury Cannonball, using the Fenris. It's got Shang-Chi, Gladiator, Negasonic, a bunch of different ways to destroy cards to be able to bring them back with Fenris Wolf. Of course, you also do have this Mr. Sinister package by Chamo as well, having Merlin to be able to give you some extra outs and extra energies to be able to kind of slam either counter cards or just more power onto the board. Merlin, of course, is a very well-designed, I believe, Season Pass card, so I'm not surprised it's still performing well, even with the popularity going as high almost as Surge itself. Now, moving on to the next card over here, we are going to be talking about the good old, not Nightmare yet, but good old Cassandra Nova, which Cassandra Nova, I think, is kind of maybe not falling under the radar, but I think this is a card not too many people are playing at the moment, because when you look at the stats for this card, it honestly is doing really well. This card has a 56.1% win rate, only an 8% popularity, and an average cubes of 0.36, which is very high, honestly. Almost half a cube a game with a 56% win rate is really solid. Of course, you're thinking of the Mr. Negative package as one of the main packages. There are 2 versions of this on screen. One of them actually is going to be running Psylocke to be able to get that Mr. Negative out early if you don't have the Ravonna, and the other one is running Rogue in that slot to deal with maybe some of these other ongoing cards going about. And then, of course, you do have this good old Surge, freaking Gambit, Cassandra Nova, Hope Summers, just Surfer list, which is doing incredibly well with a 57% win rate, average 0.41 cubes. Then, of course, you have the Firehair Misery list is another one with Elixir. This list is going to be doing well. When more people do, I think, get access to Kid Omega at some point, this list will continue to perform well. And I do think with Dormammu, there's a lot of value there, but Cassandra Nova is doing really, really well. Even if there's not a lot of Thanos right now or a lot of Airship, I'm not saying there's not Thanos because it's still like 12% popularity from what it looks like. But this card just gets the value, and into the Nightmare meta it is too. Yes, we're not really running Scar as much, but being able to take some of this power away from those cards in that Sauron style list is actually really solid and beneficial, which is why I'm not surprised Cassandra Nova has such a high win rate. The next card we're going to be talking about is Surfer with a 57.3% win rate, 4% popularity, average 0.343 cubes. This card is doing absolutely phenomenal. Maybe it doesn't have the most games played because other people are playing just big cards, but Surfer is absolutely going crazy. As, of course, you saw that Fenris Wolf screen list on screen with Cassandra Nova as well. You do have all sorts of other great targets for Surfer. You are running Shang-Chi for the Fenris Wolf. If you don't have anything with like the Killmonger or the Gambit, so you have lots of value there. You, of course, also do have, I believe this is Dark Razor's list, which also has the Proxima and the Moon Knight to be able to just mill your opponent's hand with the Moon Knight and also damage cards on the board with Gambit. You have Merlin. You have the Broodlings, of course, which is just an automatic, just great hit for Galacta. Then you also have people playing some of this old school Sarah package, but it's a Sarah control list with Jean Grey and Nocturne, which looks a little crazy as well, with almost a single cube in 64 games as the average cube rate, 62% win rate. Then the next list, you have a just Fasto Sebastian Shaw list with 62 games, 67.7% win rate, with an average of 1.1 cubes. Is going crazy. But I kind of want to talk about the Zabu package next. As we look at the Zabu package, I kind of wanted to include this as one single package because you have Shang-Chi and Enchantress, which are kind of used interchangeably in this Zabu list. The one main difference between the two is that Shang-Chi is used in a Wiccan list that Enchantress is not used in, but Zabu is in pretty much every single list, with Zabu having a 52.6% win rate, Enchantress having a 52.1% win rate, and Shang-Chi having a 52.3% win rate, all within the 52s. We have a 35% popularity for Shang-Chi, 25.8% popularity for Enchantress, 25.2% popularity for Zabu. These cards are getting played in almost every other game. Shang-Chi in almost every other game, with the cube rates being 0.12 for Zabu, 0.13 for Enchantress, and 0.18 for Shang-Chi. If you're looking at the list, you have Chamo's list. You also have just a Kitty kind of Hope Summers kind of control tempo list. You then, of course, have the Dr. Lucci Annihilus Werewolf list, and then you have this Sasquatch Electra Zabu list by Ninja that is doing incredible as well, with a 58% win rate plus 0.36 cubes. The Dr. Lucci list still, like I was saying earlier, 57% win rate plus 0.36 cubes. Chamo's list, 55% win rate plus 0.3 cubes. And of course, the Hope Summers Kitty Pride list that is going to have a 56% win rate plus 0.32 cubes, over 55% win rate for 4 different lists with Zabu, as long as you have Shang-Chi and Enchantress in both lists, is kind of crazy to kind of have just this tech option for everything. This package is just continuing to do really, really well. As we look at the just popularity of this deck and it being a very solid just tech matchup to be able to counter a lot of the stuff going on. Moving over to Juggernaut over here, maybe not as popular as the other cards with a 9% popularity, 52.9% win rate, plus 0.25 cubes. This card is still performing really well, whether it is in the Airship Thanos, which has a way worse average cube rate at the moment. But then you look at the Surfer package, which I was saying earlier, Surfer's doing incredibly well. You're running Juggernaut. You also have Huskies in remembrance of Skada Nomura Scarlist, which is doing really well with a 55% win rate. 0.46 average cubes is really good. And then, of course, another Surfer list with the Proxima and Light Moon Knight package. Just this is another card that can just single-handedly win you games. Priority Juggernaut is incredible, especially into most matchups, because it can offset the combo your opponents are trying to do on a final turn and just really win you the game because they have no other way to get into that lane. This card just continues to perform incredibly well as the other 3-cost cards in the same exact vein. When we do also look at Red Guardian is also performing really well. I think Red Guardian, we've we've talked about is one of the best like tempo cards you can just play in this game when it comes to like statistics and when it comes to everything else. Like Red Guardian always just holds its value because it's not like throwing down like a Shadow King or anything just on tempo. You're like, oh well, I'm really just messed up what I'm trying to do. Yes, you'll have instances where like Red Guardian doesn't hit anything and you kind of do feel bad, so you don't hit that 3-5. But you're seeing it in like the large array of lists in general, as it has a 54.6% win rate, 13.9% popularity, and an average cubes of 0.22. This card is still just doing incredible. I wouldn't be surprised if something happens to this card, whether it is the Wiccan list, that Sasquatch list we were talking about. Also, just Surfer, and then there's another iteration of the Sasquatch list. The main difference between these two Sasquatch lists is one is running Copycat and one is running Ghost, which is really interesting because Copycat's kind of not the best right now in this Nightmare Sauron heavy meta because you don't want Copycat copying one of those bad cards. And Ghost here to kind of get better value out of a potential Enchantress or a Shang-Chi, maybe even an Electra if you're running into a lot of Kitty Pryde. It's very interesting to see Ghost actually in this package as well. To move on to our last few cards here, we do have Werewolf by Night with a 55.9% win rate, a 6.9% popularity, and average 0.24 cubes. This is another card that is kind of not really going under the radar, but is doing some really crazy things, whether it is this Annihilist just send over kind of list where it comes with Werewolf by Night, where you have Merlin to also have those spells to be able to get werewolf value, which is really interesting because those spells, even if they take up the slot, as soon as they go away, the honor reveal happens. So that's why a werewolf jumps to the slot. So you can kind of like potentially clog your board to people get the werewolf value, which is really good of this. Of course, you also have Agamotto to do things like that as well. You do also have these like just power buffing or just tech card deck, which you have with this Loki deck with a 53% win rate with a 0.17 cube rate, where you have Loki, you have Surge, you have all the arrows from Kate, you have Merlin, Mobius, a Copycat Chi, Galacta, Enchantress, Gwenpool. I think you're using this in a bunch of different ways, whether it's to get your opponent's deck with Loki, to be able to offset opponent's power with tech, with the Enchantress and the Shang-Chi, add power to your own cards with the Gwenpool or the Galacta, and the spells, like I was talking about, to be able to get into different lanes with Mobius, or with Merlin, sorry, not Mobius, is really solid. And then, of course, you do have the other list, which is just the kind of Chamo stylist, but you're not running Loki at all, which is really interesting. So you're kind of having a different way to just kind of clog your board with the Mr. Sinister. But if you get Once in Future or even Polymorph, you can get value on the Mr. Sinister itself. And also Galacta Mr. Sinister, like Chamo's been doing, is really solid in general. But it's kind of like the same couple list in a sense. But Werewolf by Night is freaking popping. Next, of course, how could we talk about most popular cards without talking about Galacta with a 21.2% popularity, 53.4% win rate, and average +2/1 cubes. This card is in a large variety of lists. Wow, large variety of lists. I couldn't even freaking talk. Holy moly, talking too fast. Whether it is this Gwenpool, Galacta, Enchantress package you're seeing in the top and the bottom left deck over here. Both of these having over a 55% win rate. The Chamo list and then the kind of Kitty Control list. Of course, you have Airship, Agamotto, Thanos, Shenanigans, Monty, the 34 Monty as another list, which has really fallen off quite a bit. And then, of course, the Kid Omega list, because running Galacta is better than running Shuri, especially in that style list. Really sad for Shuri. Her days are kind of really just gone at the moment because cards like this and Kahori and Gwenpool exist. Of course, Gwenpool probably ahead of Kahori still at the moment. This card just allows you to just add extra power just in a large variety of different ways. Of course, just two different ways, but to a large variety of different cards to get value. And it's still just going to incredibly be in part of the meta. Like, I think for a long time being, unless something happens, even if she does go down to a 4/4. But the December Season Pass card holds up. But we are now to the point of today's video where we're going to be talking about the two sleeper cards of the week. And I think they're both 2-cost cards, as we do talk about good old Toxin, and then we will have what I think is potentially one of the best cards still in the game right now, which is still doing incredibly well. Toxin right now has a 3.4% popularity, but a 58% win rate. 58% win rate with plus 0.35 cubes. This deck, of course, you're thinking of the Move Bounce style list, which is still incredibly good. It's not as popular at the moment, but it is still putting up numbers with a 57.6% win rate in over 730 games still, 0.32 cubes on average. And then we have just some regular bounce. We have a Hitmonkey bounce with... the difference is one is using Joaquin. The one with Joaquin has a 60% win rate with plus 0.53 cubes. Yes, the games are a little low, but 180 games still is nothing to joke at. Then the next one, we do have another Joaquin list here. The main difference between the two, it looks like, is one is using Black Swan and the other is not. The Black Swan list does have the higher win rate with a over 8% win rate and a better cube rate with an average 0.49% or 0.49 cubes higher. And then, of course, we do have the highest win rate list, which is going to be the other Hitmonkey bounce list with Agent Venom instead of Black Swan to get extra value by adding power to this card originally in their deck with a 61.7% win rate and a 0.59 cube rate. This is really crazy because, we've been talking about how bounce is kind of, falling off a little bit and it's just not great. But, of course, you have to really be able to pilot it well, and Toxin enables you to do some just extra bounces, and then you have Falcon and you still have Beast in there, which is really incredible. But what I will say, guys, the honorable mention sleeper, potentially maybe best card of the week, is going to be Scream. Scream has a 60% win rate with a 0.9% popularity. Average cubes is plus 0.39. These games, like I said, are going to be low because the popularity is low this week. But if you look at this, 75 games, 73.3% win rate, plus 0.84 average cubes. The next deck, 60% win rate, 43 games, 0.65 average cubes. The next deck, 62% win rate, 24 games, 0.38 cubes. And then the following one, 63% win rate, 22 games, plus 0.64. So this card has definitely slowed down in the meta. You're not seeing this card as much. So it does have the highest win rate, but its popularity is so low. Not a lot of people are there to tank said win rate. But I think even though people have stopped playing this card is still really good. And I think you can really offset what your opponents are still trying to do right now. So if you want to just play a really good deck, I would say at the moment, even if people are playing a lot of big, dumb stuff, you still have all these other outs for yourself. You have the Cannonball, you have the Hydra Stomper, you have Helion. Helion's getting freaking plays right now, which is really interesting. But of course, you kind of need to know this list in order to really maximize this list. But this is the sleeper card of the week. It does have a low popularity, but a very high win rate, very high cube rate. And that is going to be the gist of what I consider some of the top cards in the game this week. Wait, Tucker, you forgot one of the main cards. Well, it's because it's not one of the top cards. You have Scream, not Scream. You have Nightmare over here, which makes you scream. Nightmare right now is the, Snap Pack card of the week with a 48.2% win rate, 24.4% popularity, minus 0.09 cubes. So this kind of feels like negative in a sense, right? The difference is negative will have a negative win rate, but have a positive cube rate. Whereas this right here, you don't know what necessarily your cards are going to be swapping into. It is a good potential snap condition into your opponent since they also don't know what your cards are swapping into. But I'm not going to say it takes away some of the consistency of Sauron, but it's very interesting to see how it has kind of changed the dynamic in a sense, opposed to the starter Scar Sauron list. As we look at the first two lists, both of them having negative win rates or negative average cube rates, negative win rates being just less than 50. One of them being a Pixie list, the next one just being a Sauron list with Martyr and Infinite instead of just playing just completely into just the Sauron package. You have Gladiator in here as well. And then you have Black Knight, which Black Knight having over 500 games, 51% win rate, plus 0.2 cubes, which I think is honestly pretty decent having this as an option. War Machine Black Knight is something I've always really loved playing itself before this even came out, but having different outs to be able to play Infinite, I think I might have tried to find a way to put Hope Summers or Surge in here, some sort of ramp to potentially play Ebony Maw and one of the big 6 drops out a little bit later, or even a Sif into Ghost Rider. I think optimally would be probably better in this style list, but interesting to see that doing well. And then, of course, you do have the other Nightmare list, which in comparison to the other two, you're just not running Infinite. And I think not running Infinite because you don't have the War Machine or a way to get that out, I think it really helps with the consistency and allow you to kind of steal some games better in this list. But this card in general, I said it was going to be good. I mean, it's still okay, but it's just not... It's not the right timing. I think this is another card that will just kind of like age kind of like wine kind of stuff, kind of like how Starband kind of like fell off in the very beginning and then eventually got better and better and better as people started teching and doing stuff better with the card. But yeah, that is going to be actually the gist of this video officially this time. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys stick around to the very end, let me know down below. Is this something you guys want to continue to see in the future? I would love to do this every single week, talk about the top cards of the week, see how they look from this week to last week. A show is the top 4 decks for each card as well. But I want to say, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Until next time, it's been real. God bless, and Tucker out.